Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rogers. Happy St. Patrick's Day. March 17th. It's Thursday, so it's the first day of the NCAA tournament, and we are set to go. So let's bring the crew in. Stephanie Otey, Bruce Marshall. That's right. He has covered the NCAA tournament for a very long time. Do you remember the first tournament you covered, Bruce?
Yeah, it would have been 82. That was the one down in New Orleans, and that was Michael Jordan's coming out party. Georgetown, Patrick Ewing. And like I say, it wasn't Michael Jordan shot in the last game we all remember. It was James Worthy missing 2 free throws with a second to go that prevented North Carolina from covering the game. So that's what I remember about 82.
So you still excited to when you get the brackets out and all that, like when Sunday hits and now today, you still get excited about all that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it never changes. And it's always fun. I think the run up to Selection Sunday is maybe my favorite time of the year, Kevin and Stephanie, because it starts building. And even though, I mean, I write about some, we had some things up on Vegas Insider and the bracketology, but I've done that a lot over the years too. I do my own brackets with it. I like to tease Joe Lenardi at times. I tease, he needs a passport to go west of Harrisburg, but I enjoy his stuff a lot. And it's great fun. And it just builds up to this pinnacle there on Selection Sunday, and then it sort of starts all over again with all the tournament stuff. So I think these are the most fun couple weeks of the year.
Yeah, you're not wrong. March Madness is a good time. What was the most successful year you've had in making a bracket?
Oh heck, I can't even remember. There's so many of them, Stephanie.
I will say this. To think about.
I will say, yeah, maybe so. I will say this. I can see the tournament better than the committee can. Now, maybe they get the teams right now. I don't think they got all the teams right. I think the Big Ten love was crazy this year. But you put 10 college administrators in a room and you tell me they can come up with something correct. No, they sort of subtract each other out, if you ask me. So, I usually don't have too much trouble with the way the teams in there. I don't like the way they seed things sometimes. I think they could do it better. I mean, you should balance out with leagues in different regions and things like that. And you shouldn't have to have teams from the same conference hit each other before the Sweet 16 if you can help it, things like that. But it's just fun. And in the end it doesn't matter because I don't have a vote. Those guys do. So we just have to sort of live with it.
Who are your winners and losers for the seeding this year?
He was pretty straightforward at the top. I mean, we thought those 4 would probably be there. Once Auburn started to fade out of it, I think they took themselves off the top line. So I wasn't surprised to see where the top line was. I was a little surprised, and this was a complaint I have about the committee, Steph. Tennessee sitting at 3.
Yep.
Texas A&M didn't get in. Virginia Tech did. I think it's very lucky Virginia Tech won the ACC tournament. I don't think it would have gotten in. And from what I have heard in the past, and I think it was very true this year, I think when the committee got there on Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever they did in Indianapolis, they made up a mock bracket and they didn't deviate much from that except for those couple of contingencies where they had to, like Richmond winning, and then they had to slot Virginia Tech in there. I don't think they were going to put Virginia Tech in if they didn't win, like they didn't do for Texas A&M. They had made their mind up earlier. They should have moved Tennessee off the 3 line up to the 2. They didn't because they didn't want to shift things around too much. So lazy, I don't know. You got to bring out your erasers a lot. I just don't know. You put 10 people together to decide anything. I know there's a attorney chair, I guess, breaks all the ties, but I'd like to have a camera in the committee room sometime and see how it goes down.
Now, Bruce, you have the pulse on college basketball, not only like the top conferences, but the mid-majors and the bottom conferences. You know all that's going on. What are your thoughts on when you get these matchups of, let's just say, a Davidson against Michigan State? Davidson, the best team in the Atlantic 10. They lost the Atlantic 10 championship game to Richmond, and they play a Michigan State team, power conference, Big Ten, 5th, 6th, 7th best team in the conference. When you see that, when you see the best team in one of these mid-majors against a middle-tier team from a major, how do you judge those games?
Well, I think, Kevin, it's a good question. I think the lines are more blurred these days, and there wouldn't be a knee-jerk to say a Davidson or someone like that can't play with a Big Ten team. We don't want to say that anymore, or a 5 or 6 or 7 seed out of the Big Ten. So I think it just comes right off the bat. You don't want to go into handicapping a game in that situation, which we might have done in years past, where you think, okay, the team from the mid to low major is simply outclassed here. Now, there will be spots where we'll think that, and we might touch upon a few of those games as we move forward here. But that's the one sort of thing I look at when you get these mid and lower majors against power conference teams, if these mid and low majors can really play, and if they really have a chance to win and make a game competitive, and then you sort of handicap the game a bit differently. But to dismiss these mid and low majors just because they're playing a major conference, no, you sort of have to, each game is a snowflake, so you have to handicap each one separately.
Yeah, and do you run into that rut where you look at your bracket and does it weigh your odds on how you handicap it one singular game?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does, and here's where the seedings can come out, because we might, and we see it this year. I mean, we look at a lot of these games. I mean, the 12 seed and the 5 seed, the spread is 1.5, 2 points. So it's that seed number sometimes that gets into your head, and you start to think, well, there should be a bigger gap between 11 and 6, 12, 5, 13, 4, whatever, and there really isn't. So that I think is the one thing. I think there's very few of these teams this year that are really going to be outclassed in these games. So even the 14, 15, 16 seeds, I'll say it, Wright State won that game last night. Wright State's one of the better 16 seeds. I'm not sure they're going to win the next game, but I mean, they're not that bad. And like some of these teams we've seen in the past that sneak in here that have no chance, they've actually got a chance to do something. So I think that's pretty cool.
You mentioned those 5 and 12 seeds. I was trying to find one to pull off an upset because that happens at least once a year. Looking at those 5 and 12s, did you choose an upset? And if you did, which one?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at where the 5 and 12s were. UAB and Houston's kind of interesting there. UAB's at 12. There's not that much difference, though we did lean a little bit to Houston in that game. Richmond has got down. Now, here's one. You mentioned Davidson and Michigan State a minute ago. Well, here's another A10 Big Ten. Richmond and Iowa. Iowa's a very high-risk team. They shoot all those threes, and I know they're potent, and they look really good. Richmond, listen, they've got guys. They are an old team. I mean, Richmond puts a lineup on the floor many nights that's older than what the Oklahoma City Thunder put on the floor. So that's a team. You got a few points to work with there too. You're getting a double-digit number. There's a live 12 seed. Richmond's not going to blink in this game, and Iowa, like I said, can fluctuate because if the threes aren't falling, they're in danger. So that's one I think. I'm not sure New Mexico State can take out UConn. And that's a short. I actually think Richmond's got a better shot to knock off Iowa than New Mexico State, UConn in the 12-5 world.
Bruce, going back to that Iowa game, how much do you weigh these teams that run the table in these conference tournaments that maybe weren't the top seed? I mean, you look at Virginia Tech, they had to play their way in by winning. Iowa, the same thing. Do you like riding that momentum with these teams, or teams that maybe get bounced early that don't have as much wear and tear on their legs in those conference tournaments?
More the latter. Sometimes I don't think it's necessarily a plus to run the table like that, unless you're a team like Richmond that had no choice if they wanted to get in the tournament. So, and in this game, you got two teams that had to go 4 games in 4 days. So there's not as much of an edge, but I think you're right. Sometimes I like a team that got knocked out early in its conference tournament and then has a few extra days to rest. I mean, this was something Lute Olson used to really hammer. Lute Olson was never a proponent of the conference tournaments. And, the Pac-12 went back and it was the Pac-10 went a lot of years without having a tournament. And he often thought, you just get beaten up more. There's 4 more games. If you're in the tournament, maybe you don't need to play 3-4 games in a row, back to back to back, just a few days before the dance starts. So you might be right. And that momentum always doesn't carry through. And that's why I'm a little worried about, say, Virginia Tech that really had momentum, really rode something last week. So did Iowa. But Virginia Tech against Texas, there is the classic matchup of what you just said. One team went out early, has had extra days to rest. The other team was riding a tremendous high. And it's different this week. So I'm not endorsing Texas necessarily, but that's the sort of example you're talking about.
Yeah, conference championships typically do matter. Purdue, Illinois looked great in the Big Ten. Big Ten has been in a bit of a drought lately. If there's a team that's going to go the furthest from the Big Ten, who's your pick?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say Purdue, because I think watching them this year, I think they have more of an upside than everybody with the big kid Edey and Ivy. They've got some real NBA talent there, but this is not a great defensive Purdue team. At times, I would think it might be Illinois, though I think Illinois got its hands full with Chattanooga in this first game. Purdue, I think, even though it didn't win the Big Ten tournament, I think Purdue's the best team out of that league. So I would probably say Purdue has the chance to go furthest. But having said that, I mean, I think this tournament is so wide open. There are several teams that could make a run, and certainly out of the Big Ten. And even Iowa, though I just sort of recommended against them this game against Richmond, Iowa has a ceiling that is as high as any team in the Big Ten because they can hit those threes and Murray scores so many points. So they actually might have as good a chance to make a deep run as Purdue. But I'll go on the record right now. I don't think any of these Big Ten teams get as far as the Elite Eight. So we'll see how it goes.
Do you think, Bruce, that Indiana or Notre Dame has got a shot to make a UCLA type run like last year, winning the first 4 game and then take that momentum going forward?
Yes, Notre Dame does. I don't think Indiana does. I don't think Indiana looked that good the other night against Wyoming. That wasn't a pretty game at all. Notre Dame escaped last night. That was a tough game. Listen, if Rutgers is going to hit fall away bank shots, 3-pointers, to keep that game alive, and you can still survive that, that's pretty good. Notre Dame is a very underrated team. They were underseeded. I don't think they should have had to play in the play-in game. They were the bloody second qualifier of the ACC. I think all this ACC hate is overdone. These teams lose some games early in the year, Kevin and Steph, when you're breaking new guys into the lineup. They had a high-profile freshman, Blake Wesley, who took a while to start making contributions. They had to fit in Atkinson, the transfer from Yale. Now, they're not alone with that. There's a lot of teams breaking in new guys early, but I think we have to diminish some of these results from back in November when Notre Dame lost several games. Once Wesley started to make contributions, I mean, heck, they beat Kentucky in December, and like we said, they finished second in the ACC. They've got a 4-year starter at point guard in Hub. Atkinson is a grad transfer down on the blocks from Yale. He's very, very good. Prentice Hub, I mentioned Hub, 4-year starter. Wesley has come on big. Goodwin can shoot. They have got, and I think Bray is an excellent coach. Yes, I'll go on record right now. I think Notre Dame's going to beat Alabama on Saturday. By the way, Notre Dame, Alabama football.
And we have USC, also another one.
Yeah, there's another one. USC and Miami. They haven't played basketball in 30 years, football in 53 years. But no, I think Notre Dame, to answer your question, Kevin, watch Fighting Irish. Watch the Domers. I think they can make a run.
Looking at some other picks coming in today, this one tips off right now is Colorado State and Michigan. Michigan, they got seeded in a path that looks pretty favorable for them, especially after, the hiccups they've had. They've pursued further. Impressive finish for them, considering the ups and downs that they've had. How do you think that they go in this tournament and in your pick today for Colorado State?
I think they go out right now. They've been too inconsistent. And we're the Big Ten. Was it really this good? This team lost 14 games this year. And the non-conference really wasn't that spectacular. They lost a lot of games non-conference. They got hammered a few times. Now, they did beat San Diego State, a Mountain West team, in Ann Arbor back in December. So maybe that does not bode as well for Colorado State. But CSU's a little bit different team. Roddy is a very difficult matchup. He post threat and he goes out to the wing. He's like a bull in a china shop. They've got experience in the backcourt. They got size. I think Colorado State has a shot here, and I'm not sure that Michigan wouldn't have been better off letting Phil Martelli keep coaching, to tell you the truth, into the tournament than Juwan. Although Juwan has done a pretty good job, I think, getting them propped up. But this team lost too many bloody games this year. They found a lot of ways to lose. They barely won half their games, so I think they're a very risky favorite. I think CSU can maybe win.
Bruce, is Arizona for real, or are they a threat to win the title?
Yep, they are. They got 3 first-round picks on that team, and the 2 big guys and Matherin are all first-round picks. Tommy Lloyd inherited a lot better situation than people thought. Now the bigs got a little bit better this year, but they're loaded. Now they're going to need Creasa to come back their point guard. I know they survived the Pac-12 tournament without him those last couple games, and that's a pretty nasty ankle injury. Now what they could use is Barbara Eden showing up and doing her little thing out of her genie bottle. Now I say that because she's a Tucson native. See, I know my Barbara Eden trivia. And to make that ankle injury go away for Creasa, when he is there, he's the top assist guy. He's their top 3-point guy. So I'm a little surprised they actually won the Pac-12 tournament without him. They need him back to make a deep run. I think the schedule is next week he probably gets back. This weekend, I'm not sure. That ankle looked a little angry. But to answer your question, yes, they are good enough. In fact, if you made me pick one, you put a gun to my head, I would probably say Arizona wins this thing. But like I say, there's another 14 or 15 that have a shot.
Arizona's my pick to win it for the first time since
Hey, there we go. Great
97. Yeah, I just
you
submitted my bracket. I was back and forth, but that's the one I've had all week when I was building it. So I was sticking with it. Gonzaga, number 1 overall. Usually when you're ranked at first overall since 2004, it's only happened 3 times that they've won it all. So obviously you said that Arizona's your pick, but how far do you think Gonzaga will go?
I think they could. I mean, you figure one of these years, you give Mark Few enough kicks at the can. I mean, Boeheim even won a championship once. I mean, you take enough chances. One of these times it's going to work. Are they better than they were last year? Maybe, only because Holmgren is such a unique force. I don't know how you defend that guy. They don't have Suggs like they had last year, though, and they had some other changes they had to make. But this team is awfully good. However, I watched them lose to Duke. I watched them lose to Alabama, and I watched them lose a couple weeks ago to St. Mary. So what? That's 3 times I saw them lose. They are not unbeatable, and they could. I mean, they're in the mix here, and it's again about matchups and how they're not going to have too much trouble with Georgia State off the bat here. But if you again put a gun in my head, I'd say I don't think they're going to win. They have a chance, and one of these years, Few's got to do it, I guess. But I don't know. I think they're beatable, and I've seen them lose 3 times, so it's not impossible.
Bruce, finally, before I let you go, give me the double-digit seed that goes to the Sweet 16.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Okay. I love this team. I think they're very good. And the other one to what? There's 2 out of the ACC. Take that, Joe Lunardi. I do think the ACC is better than you think. It's Miami, and we just touched upon them briefly against USC. Again, this team is old too. I mean, everybody can legally buy liquor on that team, and they've been around. And I'm telling you, USC is vulnerable in this spot. Miami would get Auburn next, I think, if they win this game, which they could win. So watch those 2. Miami is at a 10. Notre Dame's at an 11, and winning the play-in game. Those are 2 I would watch.
Who's your Final Four?
I haven't gotten that far, Steph. But I'm just worried about the Thursday. But have you mentioned that? I'm trying to think who I sent to VI on my picks there. I think UCLA I put in there too. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA makes run. If Juzang is healthy, if his ankle is good, I think UCLA's got a shot. I think Arizona could be there too. I think Gonzaga is probably going to go out. I can't even remember the sides I put in there. But I think we will see at least 1 and maybe 2 Pac-12 teams in the Final Four.
All right, here's my final question for you, because you brought up the ACC.
Yeah.
When does Coach K get bounced? And will they have a big parade for him if they lose?
Oh.
I have a Mike Krzyzewski imitation, but I won't do it. But that was unacceptable. The game against North Carolina. He's mad now. He is really mad. He gets bounced before. I think this team's chafing under the pressure. Yeah, there'll be parades for him. Who knows? Maybe he'll pull Tom Brady and say he's coming back. I don't know. Yeah, they'll keep doing. Well, he'll be sitting on every board of directors. You see, we'll still see a lot of Krzyzewski after this, but I think he gets bounced before the Final Four. Yeah.
Coming out of retirement. Do you think if he were to return, how long would he last? Would he last more than the 6 weeks Tom Brady did?
Good question. First, he's got to get by his wife, who wanted him to retire a few years ago. So he's got to deal with Mickey first. We'll see.
Bruce Marshall, great handicapper. He's number 1 in college basketball in Vegas Insider, and he handicaps everything: NBA, NFL, soccer, the whole thing. So, Bruce, thanks for joining us. Best of luck. We'll talk to you again soon during the tournament. Okay.
Okay, guys. Take care. Yep.
All right. Thanks. There is Bruce Marshall, and yeah, I love talking to Bruce. He covers everything. He's all over the place with all this stuff. All right, Steph, here's what we're going to do. Since the Michigan game started, Just we're going to be on for a few minutes and we're going to bail because so let people watch the tournament. Quick of who you like today in your bracket. Who do you have coming out today in your bracket on Thursday?
I'm looking. I'll focus on upsets. Like I'm looking at my bracket now. I have Memphis ups. That I mean, that's an 8 and 9. Those are always tough. I have Memphis pulling that one out. I like that one. I didn't go too upset heavy today, but that was an upset that I had. I also have. We talked about it earlier. Ohio State going out in the first round.
I think you're wrong on this one. I really do. I think
hope
I think you're going to beat Loyola. I
hope
think
I
because
am.
of last year, they're going to beat Loyola.
I just maybe because I'm betting against them, they will win because that's usually how it goes with me in Ohio State hoops. So
I just have faith in them. I think that last year was motivation. I know they had some bad losses at the end of the year, but I think they get this one. A pick 'em. I think they get it.
Does this make me a very bad Ohio State fan? I mean, this has like been the topic for the past like 2 weeks. My bad Ohio State fan because I have Michigan upsetting Colorado State as well.
What's more important, winning or being a good fan?
Being right.
What's more important? Winning.
Ooh. Honestly, I kind of struggled there. I feel like I'm a very loyal person. So
leave the fandom at the door.
Should I decide on money or should I decide on loyalty?
Money in the end. Your school's going to let you down.
This is like going to just set me up to be a terrible wife then.
Well, that's a little different.
Take the money, screw the loyalty.
It depends. Well, sports, yeah, you go with the money. Marriage, go with the loyalty. My only crazy upset is Longwood. I need to pick one crazy one, and I went with Longwood to beat Tennessee and then to beat Michigan in the Sweet 16. And I had my double-digit seeds, Longwood, Davidson, and I took Indiana to go to the Sweet 16.
We talked about this one on Tuesday. I have Providence going out first round.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I liked that one. Also have Texas, Virginia Tech beating Texas to in the first round. I kind of do wish I took that Indiana one, but we'll see how that one goes.
But we are together in Arizona, though.
You have them winning it all, and you kind of convinced me to take Texas Tech. So we have the same championship game, don't we?
No, because I have Kentucky beating Texas Tech.
Oh, see, I was between those. But yeah. I don't know, because I told you I was looking at the average number the seeds add up to are 11. And I looked at mine and it was just usually there's 2 1 seeds in there though. So I took Gonzaga out and put Texas Tech in, but
I had Arizona and Kansas as my 1 seeds on one side, and then Texas Tech and Kentucky a 2 and a 3 on the other side. I had Gonzaga getting bounced by Texas Tech, and I had Baylor losing to Kentucky just because I didn't think Baylor could lose to the teams that were in that region or in that part of the region.
I have
all the 1 seeds going to the Elite 8.
Ooh, yeah. Now that I think about it, do I have all my 1 seeds going to the Elite 8?
I had Villanova going far. I had Wisconsin. I just took them because Wisconsin.
I have Wisconsin in my Final Four. I have Wisconsin in my Final Four, but I don't think I like it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, you look a lot smarter when you get some of these right, you know. And then, hey, here's the key. I learned this a long time ago. Get 12 of the 16. If you get 12 of the 16 Sweet 16 teams right, you're in pretty good shape. If you're at like 8, you're in trouble. I would say if you get 12, you're in good shape.
Yeah, if you get 50%, that's like an F. That's failing.
And hope that you have 3 of the Final 4 in there out of the Sweet 16.
Oof.
Hope, and then at least you have them in that area. You don't want to have like 1 left. But again,
I don't love my
Final 4 teams.
My Final 4, I feel like we're on the same page, except I have Wisconsin in there. I have Texas Tech, UK, Arizona, and Wisconsin.
I had Wisconsin in the Elite 8 losing to Kansas. So
see, and I like that. I like Kansas better in that matchup. But when I look at my bracket as a whole, I just didn't like having so many top seeds going
I
in.
know.
So that's like literally that was the kicker for me. But if I'm gonna, basically when we talk about handicapping against your own bracket, that's definitely one of those games. I will be doing that.
Yeah, look. A lot of it's a guessing game. I took UAB to beat Houston, but then to lose to Illinois. But again, it's these teams like Chattanooga, South Dakota State. Like, who do you believe in, or is it all kind of smoke and mirrors? And Vermont against Arkansas. Like, Vermont is a good team, but I say, who do they play? Like, that's always
Yeah. And then when you look at, do you bet totals a lot? Because when I look at totals, at least in March Madness, I always go up a little bit more just because the pressure, the juice, like that. I mean, it's do or die. But then again, I'm like, will they get sloppy with it? I just think that they'll take more shots.
I stay away from these totals because you have. Here's the reason why. Different arena, neutral site, the fan thing. You don't have one-sided fans for the most part. Weird times. I think there's so many different factors to it as far as the side goes that it's just very hard to handicap that, I feel like, in the tournament as opposed to the regular season.
I think this year I definitely want to take a lot of totals just to experiment and see if my theory is right.
Don't forget one thing. Unders are always winners until late in the game.
I've always been an under, but that's basically what my theory is. I've always liked unders, but now that it's March Madness, I just feel like if I was playing in this game, I'm just taking every shot I freaking get,
Let me see something. I'm just looking to see what the lowest total is on the board today.
I have my championship game at 162.
Well, Creighton San Diego State tonight is 121. So that means you need them to reach the 60s, both to reach the 60s, and it's a winner. But then you have your highest total is Richmond, Iowa's 151. Right? Did I get that right? As far as the highest? No, I'm sorry. Marquette, North Carolina is 153. So you need like 2 in the 75s. Like you really need a run and gun. But also you got fouls in the end. That's really the key to those is, you know what you need, I think, Stephanie? You need like an 8-point game, 6 to 8 to 9-point game where you get a basket foul, and just keep kind of racking those up. You can't have a 15-point game because then you don't have the fouls.
Are you taking like on these spreads that are double-digit spreads, Delaware, Villanova, Purdue, Yale, Texas Tech, Montana State? Are you taking any of these long odds here? Baylor, a 20.5-point favorite.
I mean, Baylor outclasses Norfolk State. Like, I got to believe that they, and that's where people want to get cute and say, oh, can Gonzaga yes, Gonzaga can blow out Georgia State. And I always say this about underdogs. If you're taking the underdog, that means you think they're going to win, but use the points as insurance. Don't take 20.5 with Norfolk State because you think they're going to lose by 19 to Baylor. Like you can't do that. If you take Norfolk State, that means you think Norfolk State's a lot better and Baylor's not as good, and that's fine. I'm not telling anybody not to take all those points, but don't try to take the points thinking they're going to hang in the game because these teams are so superior to them. And the problem with Virginia years ago, Virginia did not have that offensive explosion against UMBC to do that. They played defensively. When the shots weren't falling, they were in big trouble. These teams are too good offensively.
I know. That's where, the games are just so different in March, Like, you could see a completely different team out there just by how many shots they're taking.
Well, look, it's a one and done. It's a one and done situation. And again, you're in a new venue. A lot of these guys are playing in places they've never played in. And these games, yes, we put picks out in these games, but I believe these are some of the toughest games to handicap because of all the factors. I think the NIT is easier to handicap personally because you have home games. That's more about motivation in those games, which teams are motivated, which teams are like, I'm done with this. But I feel like the NIT is easier to handicap at times in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Are you one of those people that performs better when the pressure's at its highest, like on the highest stage? I feel like I am. Like when it's, like the biggest game, I usually have my best broadcast. Like I feel like I'm usually that way, but then there's some people who the pressure gets to them, you know?
But you know what though? But like from a handicapping standpoint, like I don't like handicapping the national championship. Like if you got to the national championship, and I had Baylor last year actually. I took the points with Baylor, but I don't like it because so many opinions. That's what it is. I like regular season stuff when there are under the radar games people aren't paying attention to. The problem here is you have 16 games today. Everyone's talking about them. So you have all these opinions and everyone, you're like, am I right? I don't know. I've heard this. I've heard that. Now I got to change my opinion. So that's where I try to be very selective with these games and say, okay, there's maybe like 1 or 2 or 3 I like and not like 10 of them.
Yeah. It's so hard to look at individual games when you're building your bracket because just the way they all line up, like, oh, I need another upset. Like that comes into play so much. So I think I'll be better off doing the singular games than my bracket.
I'll tell you, the bracket, like Bruce made a good point, and he's right. I'm worried about today.
Yeah.
I can't be worried about the 4th and 5th rounds of the tournament and be like, oh, I think that Gonzaga is going to beat Texas Tech. Like, let's see if these teams can get out of today, and then we'll worry about. That's why I never like futures, because I can't worry that far ahead. Like, let me worry about this one, and then
futures are fun when your team is on the edge, you know, like I liked the Packers at the beginning of the season, and you know, I thought they were going to win it all. So then when they went out, obviously it wasn't fun to follow that future anymore. It didn't exist. But if it's like an anticipated thing for a long amount of time and there's other opportunities for other teams, you know, I think it's fun to follow. But if you're out immediately, then it's no fun.
Oh,
that's why the 16th seed beating the 1 was just like, what's the point of this anymore?
I'm telling you, it ruins the whole thing. All right, Steph, we're going to bail because we got
Games
basketball to watch.
Also, it's St. Patrick's Day, so hopefully we got some luck when we're making our bets.
Well, you have more green on than I do.
I did it on purpose. My family like had this
green.
Like group chat going like crazy about like happy St. Patrick's Day. My mom's maiden name is O'Brien, so she thinks that this is like her family's holiday within our family. So,
well, that's totally fine if you're Irish. It's always the people that want to take it to another level when it's like you're not Irish at all and you're trying to make this into a whole like drinking holiday. Like people like celebrate it, totally fine with. But then it's like everyone's like, oh, I'm going to party. And it's like, well, are you Irish? No, but so. All right, Steph. So we'll talk to you again on Tuesday, and we're going to look ahead to the Sweet 16. So that will be very fun because now the field will be cut from 64 to 32 to 16. So we'll be good to go. And 2 days, you got 2 days of wall-to-wall basketball. So that should be a lot of fun.
It goes by so fast though. like there's so much build up. You look at these, you know, the matchups so much, and then I feel like it goes by so fast.
I know. So. Well, we'll see if your Buckeyes survive if they get through Loyola Chicago tomorrow.
At least I'll be fine with either outcome. You know what I mean? If they win, I'm like, oh, go Bucks. But if they lose, I'm like, all right, well, called it. You know.
Well, it's a 12:15 tip-off tomorrow, so you got that one right out of the chute. And then if they win, then you're good to go for a few more days. And if they lose, it'll be kind of a crappy day. But you know, you'll be fine. Look at the good side of it. You turn the page to football after that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a new day. Like we're
ready to roll.
All right, Steph. So we'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Our thanks to Bruce Marshall for joining us as well. I am Kevin Rogers. Thanks a lot for joining us, and have fun with the brackets. And as always, best of luck with your bets.